Hello, and welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
I'm Tim Barnes from the Letters from African America Substack, where I've basically uploaded my entire life. So you can see my Uncertain Life webcomic, my old podcast, It's All True, my Comedy Central animated web series, Maurice on Mars, and monthly newsletter updates about whatever the hell I want to talk about to the people who subscribe.
Cool.
Nice. And I'm Jim Fagan, and if you don't get enough Tim at his Substack, you can follow Tim and I and our co-host Greg at YubNubPod, and our podcast is the YubNub Podcast. So in between seasons of Star Wars Minute, come and check us out on back order.
I love that you're going to get the people who are going to come to you because of this are hardcore, because they'll be like, all right, I got Star Wars Minute every day. I got Tim's Substack, but I need more Star Wars podcast, and I need to hear more from Tim and from you, Dash.
And when you go there, tell them Pete the Retailer sent you. That's my favorite thing. I love those. I want to walk up to a place and say, hey, so-and-so sent me. People really do
I would
that.
get so nervous. I would break out into Pete the Retailer sent me. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, Steve Harvey sent me.
Minimum wage employee. Does that change anything about this?
I'd be like, fine, come here through this door. Well, thanks for coming back, you two. We're talking today about minute 32 of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And 32 starts out with the revelation of a cliffhanger. Yesterday we had a match game moment. We said, Snap Wexley talking to General Leia, and he said, you're right, this is blank. And so what did you guys write down for Snap's this is blank? What do you got?
Shall I go
I
first?
had...
Go for it.
This is Spinal Tap.
Oh,
This is Spinal Tap.
Full title.
I had, this is a great dress you're wearing, General Leia.
He's very, very, what's that? Complimentary.
Yeah.
Yes.
That Snap.
Little brown noser. You're looking fine today, General Leia.
Alex, what do you got?
I said that it's a heck of a Star War.
Oh,
Snap just like,
this is a heck of a Star War. And I, of course, said, this is how we do it.
oh,
Yes.
So,
no match.
All of which would have made Rose turn and march away in disgust as she does. So I feel like
right.
they're all good.
No matter what, we're on point with the tone here. We may not. Yeah, Snap, of course, says this is terrific. It's like, God, this is terrific. This is going to be great. He was being sarcastically upbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the movie ends. No, the minute ends. The minute ends with Poe saying that they're going to die in sand burrows. Sand burrows.
Bellows.
Sand burrows. Yes. So they're Poe. First, Snap is being sarcastically optimistic, and then Poe is being sarcastically downbeat. So,
Does that happen often, minute by minute? Do things bookend each other so nicely? Like, that really is perfect, it feels like.
sometimes you can find the bookends. Sometimes it takes a little bit of digging.
Sometimes the bookends find you.
Yes.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how much I wanted to know, because this is, I guess this is once they Snap finishes his thing. It's kind of not really noteworthy. He just finishes talking. They have this scene. I'm not sure entirely why it's here. Although
I think it's the Grunberg factor.
Yeah, they wanted to get him in there, but still, I guess they just wanted to kind of break up the scene between. There's a lot of things in here. As much as I do like this movie a lot, and then every once in a while there's these moments where I'm just kind of like, put that in there, but they cut out the bit where like they tell us the important things from or like the
Lando's
the thing with
daughter
Lando and his daughter and
Yeah,
the thing
we have
with
this
Finn
scene.
saying like the thing that he had to tell Rey.
Yeah.
And
All joking aside about it, I really do feel like they had Leia footage and they were like, this'll work. We can make this work for sure
Right.
right here, and we'll get this in. And it's like making her feel more present in the movie.
Yeah.
It just feels
It kind of feels like the
Yeah.
first test that they did with the Leia footage, actually. Like, you just come up here, riff, see if we can...
Right. She's just gonna
using
make
it
like a stern face at you in reply.
It feels it makes me wonder, like, is this footage from like the first movie? Like that they're just repurposing here. You know, like it has that
Most
kind
of it must
Leia.
be,
It has
right?
that vibe.
I keep trying to figure out where these would have been in either movie. Like out of context, what her saying this would have tied into.
I feel like isn't
in
it
the
kind of
first movie-
generic? Like, you should be more optimistic.
Yeah.
That could really
Yeah.
be in any.
You never underestimate a droid,
Yeah.
she says.
Yeah.
right.
It's just like a Leia doll. You pull it, it says different.
exactly what it is.
Different catchphrases.
Somebody poisoned the watering hole.
May the force be with you. You came in that thing?
So sad. It's so sad because their whole plan was like, this one will be Leia's movie.
Oh, I know. It's really
Yes.
one of
Han's
the one of
movie and
the
then Luke's movie, and then it's just like, and
One of
that's
the
part of
big-
the reason why this movie, like, I'm with you, Pete. I like this movie, but I get bumped by all the Leia scenes, and I'm like, God, imagine replacing all of those with Carrie Fisher actually having Leia's
Yeah.
moment finally as a character. This movie would really, up its game a lot. So.
Yeah. And I mean, potentially that could also, one of the other legitimate complaints is that, Rose has almost nothing to do. But if you had Leia in it more, then the parts that are on the planet, which I'm presuming Rose would be kind of part of the rebellion, the rebel base kind of scenario, that she would have more to do. She would be more of a presence.
Yeah.
Right.
So really, it ruined everything.
And I want more
I mean,
Maz
in the
Kanata,
original
too.
trilogy, Rose would be a general. They would have just promoted her completely.
Right. Yeah. A general, look at you. It's like, I didn't even want that. I don't know. There's just a box in there that said, take one, and it turns out it was a general ship. General ship?
Yeah. Hello there.
Well, so but I can go two ways here. One, I wanted to again, snap scene doesn't really do much here, but in the novelization, which I'm gonna keep-
Snapchat.
Snapchat, Leia's she's on a Snapchat.
That's very good.
This podcast.
in that scene, yeah. In that scene in the book, like he finishes that by saying, he was like, all right, so there, we've word on the street at Pisano's that there's a raid, and she was like, don't tell me, like we need this mission to succeed, blah blah blah, and she's like, be positive, and he's like, oh, okay, well, this is gonna be great, and she's like, don't be sarcastic. He's like, all right, well, also, it's the Knights of Ren. And there's this like moment there, like dun-dun, which kind of brings it back to her that presumably she didn't know that Kylo is back with the Knights of Ren.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a moment of like she's taken aback for a second, and it ties into another scene that we don't get to see in this movie, which I'll bring up in a couple of days. You guys will be here for it.
Wow.
But interesting because we don't, as far as we know, the Knights of Ren are not on Pisana. I don't think, right? We don't get to see them doing their thing.
Well, Kylo
They're there.
shows up there, right?
Yeah, they show
Yeah,
up. We see them like standing on a mountain there.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
then not much happens with them. But I like the idea that to General Leia, the Knights of Ren are just her son's friends that she doesn't like. And she's like, oh no,
Right.
he's hanging out with the wrong
He
crowd.
fell in with them again.
Yeah, it's like a band
Steve.
he was in middle school. Like, they were so loud and terrible. And,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mom, leave
presumably
us
that's
alone.
not
Hey, Mrs. Ren.
My name is Kylo now.
That's it. That's wild because that's not like the novelization author just like playing jazz, right? That was probably originally how the scene was meant to end, and that
Yeah.
makes the whole scene have a reason for existing, and you don't need Leia to deliver any different lines. So I don't understand. Understand.
Yeah. Again, there's some puzzling choices as to what got cut and what stayed in.
Mm.
And again, I would like to see, I would like to see a longer cut of each of these, all the Disney movies. I would like to see an extended version of all. Maybe not so much The Force Awakens. I feel like they got everything they needed to in there.
I have
that's
one
pretty tight.
suggestion because there's
Constable
one deleted
Zuvio?
scene There's one deleted scene from The Force Awakens that would help almost everything. It would help Solo. It would help this trilogy. It would help The Last Jedi. There's a scene where Kylo Ren goes onto the Millennium Falcon when the Millennium Falcon has landed on Starkiller Base. He goes in there alone. He walks up to the cockpit and he picks up the dice, or he looks at the dice, and it just felt like it would have tied in to all of the dice lore that becomes so important in the Disney franchise. Because as it is now,
why cut that?
We see this dice that has not been referenced in any way that Luke hands to General Leia in The Last Jedi, and people who know about this from outside of just the movies, it has an impact. But just from these movies alone, you're like, okay, I guess these are important, sentimental
cool
dice.
Keychain.
Yeah. I was actually wondering if that's why they cut the line about the Knights of Ren, because the Knights of Ren not only have not been introduced in this movie yet, but they weren't in the last movie, and they were barely in Force Awakens. So would people be like, "What? What are they talking about? Who?" You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like, I don't mean hardcore Star Wars nerds. I mean casual fans, casual viewers who haven't memorized, all the junk that we have crammed in our stupid heads.
I mean,
took a dark turn
it
there,
didn't. I don't think you're wrong, but it didn't stop them from being like, here's a Sith Wayfinder and all that, and then
it's a strange
the
hill
Knights
to
ride
die
in at the end. The Knights of Ren always sounds to me like the horsemen in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, the ring rates.
Yeah, that's who I always picture. Or slash the knights from the Knights Who Say Knee.
In my head they're more like Monty Python, Holy Grail.
How are they explained in this movie? I don't recall. They
have not appeared yet, I don't think, in this film.
Okay.
Oh no, you know what they were? When Kylo Ren was walking with Bulio's head. Remember that guy said, "Ghouls." They were called ghouls by the First Order.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Aren't they other Jedi from Luke's school that Kylo didn't kill? Isn't that where
Mystery
he
box.
gets them? Or I'm just making this up. I'm just making things up.
Could be in a comic or a book or something that we haven't read, but I don't know. As far as we know, they're just his gang.
Got it.
I think there was a whole thing with, I did read something about this, that was, they were like an existing gang, right? And he hooked up with them and fought the leader of the gang and became
maybe they
Kylo
were Boba
Ren.
Fett's gang of speeder driving 1950s jukebox.
The mods.
Kids.
It was the mods. He beat up the mods, and they became the Knights of Ren.
That is interesting, though. That feels like I can see some of his Solo blood coming through with that scenario of hanging out with this gang and.
No, that's kind of fun.
I have an update from the Star Wars Visual Dictionary. According to the Star Wars Visual Dictionary, the Knights of Ren were given to Kylo Ren by Snoke, so they are not former students. I always assumed that they were kind of like basically the Slytherin of Luke's school.
Yeah, that's what I always thought too.
Yeah. So what if they're little Snoke clones underneath all their masks? They're just like
they're little tiny Snokes.
I like it.
Bunch of little Snokes.
Or they're all Kylo Ren under there. They're all
Yeah. They're like a bad batch of Kylo Ren.
Oh wow, I like it. Give me a 6-episode pitch.
What? Back in this minute for a minute. Yes. How much of the, let's keep it to the Disney movies. Although you could expand it to all the movies, but I feel like it's particularly prevalent in the Disney movies. Is how much of the movie is characters running around shouting other characters' names. And I know Finn is particularly he just that's a lot of what he does is running around shouting Rey or Chewie or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's the first one that came to mind for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's in here there's somebody shouts somebody's name. I didn't even realize. I didn't even write it down. It just the concept of it just took me away.
Right. And then we get the joke that C-3PO makes right off of it, which is nobody shouted my name, but I'm fine or whatever.
I'm okay. I'm here.
I think this is where 3PO in his old age is turning from fussy to more sassy. Like he's a bit more of an edge to his voice now. So which I partly approve of. So.
Along those lines, I do want to shout out. I think it was just Tom Taylor, but our friends from Indiana Jones Minute did a supercut of how many times Indiana Jones says each other character's name. So it's like in ascending order of how many times he says different characters' names, and it's fascinating to watch.
Oh, is Marion's got to be the first one, right?
I don't know. Through all the movies?
Yeah.
But
she's in 2, so that
I don't
will
think
help.
so. Yeah. But Tom, get to work. Make a supercut of all everybody characters saying other characters' names in the Star Wars. You could just keep it to the Disney movies.
It's got to be a lot. You know what we never see? We never see in movies people not get a name right, which I feel happens in real life
unless
all
it's
the time.
intentional.
I would,
you know what I mean? Like someone's misusing someone's name.
Hugs.
You know?
Yeah. How do you pronounce that?
Hugs with an H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in the joke way, in the crippling, anxiety-inducing way.
Right.
I'm like, I've been calling him Poe the whole time. Like, Poe, what?
And that's that halfway through this, she's like, no, it's Ro Stico. No, Ro is my friend. And he's like, oh, sorry, I was calling you Rose for that whole other, when we were in the casino and everything. Sorry.
I don't want to get back on the coffee bean, my harping on the coffee beans, but this minute illustrates why it's a dumb idea, because Poe falls through, and then you see Rey falling through like a hole. What is holding those coffee beans up in that hole? Why are all the coffee beans gradually like an hourglass, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What is the structure of the ceiling of this tunnel, and how has everyone fallen through? Someone should have gotten stuck in a space of the tunnel that is not the tunnel.
What would they do? Would they just leave them there, you think?
It's almost like there's a one-way valve that they're like, like it's like a rubber. It's got like a rubber gasket.
I have a feeling there is an
grew
in-book explanation. Pete, please tell me there's an in-book explanation for why
I wish
they fall out fresh, but none of the coffee beans fall down with them.
Well, they do say that they're kind of more. They make a point of talking about how they're kind of covered in sand and stuff in the novelization. So I think they weren't picturing the coffee beans as much. They were thinking more like quicksand.
Speaking of missed opportunity to have Kylo talk about how much he hates sand in this movie, since he's
yes,
or Rey, Skywalker too.
Yeah, it's true.
Both of them. I don't like sand. I don't like sand either. Like both like trying to one up each other on how Skywalker-y they are.
So Poe falls down. He starts calling everyone's name, as Pete brought up, and then we see C-3PO there, and he's standing up. And is C-3PO capable of standing up on his own? I can't picture him being able to do the motions that would require a person to stand up on. It would be unsettling to see, wouldn't it? Like a fully articulate C-3PO.
He can't stand up like a human. I would love to see it, but it's probably just like his legs raising automatically without
like some kind of anti-gravity.
Great. Yeah, if like his like ankle just turns all the way and his feet just then go down to the floor, and then his body just kind of rises up with his feet on the floor.
Nosferatu style.
Or he has jetpacks.
They can do that.
Yeah,
they can just attach those. Maybe it's just that like ever since Empire, Chewbacca's just like, I guess this guy's my responsibility. Like whenever he's falling down, whenever he just walks over and picks him up.
Your first job is.
Are you okay? Do you need the backpack? Should I get the backpack? No. Okay.
Yeah.
We always remember that emotional scene when Han Solo is telling Chewie that you have to take care of C-3PO now, and before he goes into the carbon freeze. So.
Whenever he tips over, Chewie. Whenever he tips over,
and he will tip over.
This is a bit of a tangent, but I do love Lando says Chewbacca in the coolest way. Like he says Han incorrectly somehow, but he always says Chewbacca. It's just something away.
Well, I guess most people don't say his full name either. So even just that, it's like,
right.
It's like the reverse.
You said it,
Bobby
Chewbacca. Yeah, it's like he's kind of slurring the name.
Yeah.
And Chewbacca's like, all right, well, at least he's saying the name. Like, it's close enough. Like everybody else is just saying Chewie.
So the other great C-3PO line is he asks, "This isn't the afterlife, is it?"
Yeah, am I allowed there? He says, yeah.
Yeah, are droids not do droids go to the afterlife, but are droids allowed there, implying that they do have souls and they do live beyond, but they are not allowed in the human or biological afterlife.
Opens up a whole big can of worms.
Yeah.
One we keep avoiding with the issues of droid sentience and droids.
Yeah.
It does seem like Star Wars is
bizarre.
steadily building a strange case. We don't know the ins and outs of it, but every movie has like some element of droids' rights and droid sentience that.
But I don't think they're aware of it. Like they're kind of throwing it off just kind of like casually, unaware of the the implications. So it's
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But robot. I guess there is a robot hell we know from Futurama. So theoretically, there must also be a robot heaven.
That's true.
Oil baths.
C-3PO is in this movie. 3PO is very like grappling with his own existential crisis.
Yeah.
So I guess they're sort of setting that up a little bit here.
Oh, yeah. I guess foreshadowing.
Later
of
on,
his
he's like,
looming death.
Although, here's another no prize answer in that maybe the afterlife is the name of a very hip club. On, that he's like, oh, is this the afterlife? Like,
that's the name of the cantina.
That they have those.
Yeah. Right, yeah. It's like, I thought droids weren't allowed in here, but that's cool. We get to hang out. Oh, no, okay, sorry.
Eventually,
Sorry,
I think
I got it confused.
I think in Ahsoka you'll actually see the bar, and it is like caves and all sorts of cool and moody lighting and stuff. So I could see why he'd be why he'd make that mistake. Must be common.
Yeah. That makes you think of what might be the next thing to talk about in this minute. This has the moment where Rey ignites her lightsaber, and then Poe turns on his flashlight, right? The lighting. Yeah. Oh, first of all, the lighting in this whole movie is like stands out from every other Star Wars movie. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like glossy, and there's always some sort of like reflectiveness. And I feel like the way it looks like in this cave specifically, it just looks amazing, especially with the glow of the blue lightsaber. The fact that like everyone, you have like different skin tones in this cave, plus the reflective C-3PO, and somehow everyone's lit perfectly, yet you still get the sense that they're in a dark cave. Just want to give props to J.J. Abrams and his cinematographer, where props are due in this film.
I wonder.
It's nice.
I wonder if any of that was achieved digitally. If it was, kind of day for night, but like digital day for night, where it's just like, all right, we'll just kind of darken it up a little bit over here. Well, we want to see him, so we'll leave that. We'll just let C-3PO.
Yeah. I do think it's a nice addition of the Disney era is that lightsabers are able to cast light, because that was something they never did in the original trilogy, and I think they did a little bit in the prequels when Dooku was fighting Anakin in Attack of the Clones. It's shot in a very weird way with a lot of lighting, but the Disney era, they're definitely, because they actually are using glowing things on set, right? They're not using a foil stick the way they were in the other things. So, makes sense.
I love it when
it's very
reflecting
prevalent.
I love it when it's reflecting on the faces, but it's something that I didn't like about it, specifically in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, is when you can see the light kind of hit the ground like a flashlight would. So like when there's like a wide shot and you can see the ground with these actually glowing lightsabers, I never ever thought about, seeing a splash of red on the ground or a splash of blue on the ground for these fights. And then you all of a sudden start seeing those and you're like, I like it when it's just...
Can't have it both ways, Tim. You can't like the way it lights the cave and not want it on the ground, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's a very prevalent video game thing too in the Star Wars video games now. You go in a dark area, you light up your lightsaber, and it shows you the way. I wonder if that's where they started pulling it from in the first place, because they seem to be going to those as their inspiration a lot.
So yes, then Poe turns on his flashlight.
Did your audience laugh at that in the theaters? I don't remember if mine did.
I don't remember.
It's definitely, set up to be a gag.
Yeah,
the way he does it, and then there's like the noise that they give it to. It's like blink. It's very, very.
It's really a gag-heavy minute, right? So I guess we got our big action sequence.
Gag-heavy movie generally.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
We get, it starts right with the like say something positive and the like eye rolly kind of thing, and then C-3PO gets his joke in, and then the small manhood joke kind of out of Poe there, clicking the flashlight on, and kind of moment. It's a good gag, and then it kind of keeps going. I think there's more after that too. So it's the funny minute.
Yeah. Well, it goes into they have a little kind of dialogue banter because as they're marching through the caves, Rey lights her lightsaber. They're showing the way, marching through the caves, and she was like, "Hey, what is it? What were you going to tell me?" And this is where Poe. Finn's like, he doesn't want to tell her. He's like, "I'll tell you later," which is of course a throwback to Return of the Jedi. And then and then Poe's like, "What? When Poe's not here, like, what? We're all gonna die." And this is where he says, "We're all gonna die in sand burrows," and it continues into tomorrow. But
do you think that feeling like you might be force sensitive is a bit like in the Star Wars world is kind of like being in the closet? That's the only way I can explain why Finn is being so strange about
the other way to explain it is that he's in love with Rey. That's what he's going to say to her. I mean, I'm sorry, whoever wants to map this other explanation onto it. That's not what the actors are thinking. The actors are thinking.
I like your theory. I like this theory you have, which is that he was going to tell her, Rey, I always wanted to tell you I loved you. But then later on, he's like, I can't say that. It's so lame. What if she says she doesn't love me back? I know. I'll just say I have the Force. That way we get to spend more time together. And
I think you're right, man.
There you go. All right.
And that's because
I think you're right.
Why would he not want to say it in front of Poe? Poe's like his best friend / bro. Yeah. So it's weird.
And the novelization is just sort of sprinkled in, like getting some insight into Finn's feelings. No,
they don't really give you much insight. I think they, if anything, whenever they do kind of talking about people's thoughts, it's usually Rey.
Got it.
They don't really add much in terms of context for anybody else.
I know that I'm getting set up to be heartbroken by this new potential movie with Rey training Jedi, and the new rumor is that or they were thinking about making her a super old character, recasting, like that kind of thing. I don't know. But I would like this to be paid off in there. This Finn-Rey relationship. I want them a payoff to be of some kind.
I want it to be like 15 years later.
Comedy.
Yeah.
I want it to be 15 years later, and Finn has not even done any, he's trying to lift stuff up. He really has no Force abilities whatsoever, but he still just wants to, he keeps paying for lessons,
he is making it up. He is absolutely,
there's like a second city for
lessons.
Jedi. Yeah.
I mean, the way Poe is like when Poe's not here, Poe knows, man. I mean, it just seems like Poe and Finn have talked about this. Yeah. I've built the whole thing up in my mind. No one's going to stop me from it.
I think like, the name of the... I'm picturing the cover of the... somehow it's a VHS cover for some reason, but the cover of the rom-com of this later, and it's called I Never Told You. And it's like... it's got the two of them, and it's like... And that's what never told you what, and then he comes back all these years later to be like, I never told you. I know when I told you, it was what I told you. It wasn't what I told you.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. But that's pretty much all I had for 32. I got some more stuff, some more tidbits from the novelization to talk about tomorrow. A couple of things. We get to see what they find in these caves tomorrow. Can you guys come back tomorrow?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
For you two,
cool.
Anything.
We got to see if they get out of this cave.
Yeah.
Well, we would appreciate it. We will be happy to see you there. And hey, you listeners, viewers, if you're listening, why not view us? Go to StarWarsMinute.com/YouTube and check out our videos. And if you're just watching this on YouTube, it's a podcast too. You don't have to put your eyes on us all the time. You can just listen while you're going around doing stuff, doing like chores or driving or something like that. StarWarsMinute.com will just take you to our regular homepage for the podcast, and you can subscribe and do all kinds of stuff there. And do that, and hopefully we'll either hear or see you tomorrow on a brand new Star Wars Minute.